All right, and we're live. Welcome, everyone. This podcast is in alpha and may be subject to change. Joining me once again is Tef. No one else came. I mean, pretty sure Zalt's streaming. You abandoned us.
He's 100 years, but everyone's here because we're cooler. Can I just say, your intro gets like more strained every week. You like this podcast? Is it alpha?
It's what can I say? It's a tough intro to do. I gotta come in. I've always gotta gotta put the energy in. I don't do energy. That's not me. That's not what I do.
You really don't. You really don't.
But I've got to force it for the intro, and then I can go back to having absolutely zero energy for the rest of the podcast.
Let's do it.
Until we talk about Twitch or Ubisoft, which unfortunately I don't think we're going to be doing that this week.
Oh, I don't think we have any news that we can use to rag on anybody actually this week. It's really sad.
I'll find something to rag on.
News in general. Yeah, we'll just complain about them anyway.
Yeah, we'll get somewhere with it. I'll just complain about Zoltz not showing up to the podcast. Zoltz. I know he's not listening to the podcast, so I can complain about him and he won't know. It doesn't matter.
Too busy streaming.
It's
even streaming. Rogue Company. Ugh.
Of course he is. Alright, well, shall we get into what we've been playing this week? Because we've actually got quite a bit to talk about. So, Tef, would you like to take us away?
Okay. Well, you know what I'm hyped about. I've had the hole in my heart has been filled once more. Because I've got Forza Horizon 4 again. So those of you who know me might know that I kind of got addicted to this game when I had Game Pass when it was cheaper, and I was getting it because it was like £2-3 a month or whatever it was. It was stupidly cheap, so I had it for a couple of months, and I got really addicted to Forza Horizon 4. And then when the price went up for Game Pass, I just decided like I didn't really want to pay for it, so I cancelled Game Pass, and I didn't really miss it, except I really missed Forza, but I couldn't justify buying it because it's like £50 still for like a 2-year-old game because you have to buy it on the Microsoft Store, and it's like £70 for the game with the DLC. So I kind of had to deal, with not having it and just be sad and go back to playing inferior racing games.
It's very sad. What inferior racing games were you playing?
Well, I went back to my one of my other all-time favorite racing games, which it was my favorite. It was like Undisputed Champion until Forza Horizon came along, and it's actually really old too, but it's like a timeless classic, and it's Ridge Racer Type 4 on the PS1.
Oh yes,
it's just like the soundtrack is amazing.
Ridge Racer does have a good soundtrack. I can confirm that.
So good, and the racing still feels really good considering it's such an old game. Even looks really nice for a PS1 game, and it's just so much fun, and you can blast through the whole game in like half an hour. So it's just great to just sit down and just like get your fix. The only downside is that it's only got like 8 tracks and not a huge amount of variety, but that does have its benefits because you can just blast through the whole game in one sitting too. That's kind of fun in its own way. So yeah, I kind of had to go back to playing that, and then this week I found a sale on Newegg, which was the base game for. It was actually US Newegg, so it was $15, which comes to about £12. And I I got that. Someone on Reddit on the Game Deal subreddit tipped off that you could get it from overseas just by putting your shipping address as a US one, because obviously they didn't actually ship anything; they just emailed you a code, so you could just put any shipping address in America. So I just picked I generated a fake address in Arkansas, because another tip off was that you don't have to pay sales tax if you say you live in Arkansas. So I told them I live in Arkansas and got a key code.
Arkansas.
Oh, shut up. Oh, and yeah, I got that, and so I had the base game, and then I went on the Microsoft Store and had a look around, and it turns out that it was on sale on the Microsoft Store anyway. It wasn't quite as cheap, but the DLCs were on store there, on sale rather, which they weren't in Newegg, and the full upgrade to the Ultimate Edition with all the season pass and all the expansions was £15. So I got that too. So I've now got the whole game, um, all the add-ons for less than £30, which is £20 less than the base game alone usually costs. So I am really happy with that. That was a hell of a saving for me. I've done very well there. It's cost me less
Yeah.
than half it should have done for the full game.
Arkansas is
So
apparently the place to be, you know?
yeah, living the dream. I don't know why they don't pay sales tax because I checked that they do have sales tax, but it doesn't seem to be put on the checkout on online purchases, and I don't know why that is, but I'm not going to question it. It saved me
Hey,
like
you know what?
a couple of pounds, so
As long as you're saving money.
that is all that matters.
I'm not gonna
So I
lie, I
got
want to
that,
know more about the
and
poster in the background. It's not relevant to the podcast.
the poster's fine. That's J-pop sensation AKB48, which my partner's obsessed with, and she won in a gacha event, like won a signed poster. So that's there now.
Ah, very nice. So
This kind of steal the limelight from me a little
it
bit because
does,
it's
you
worth
know.
more than my life is, but still, it's fine.
Yeah, you know, if the house were to burn down, she'd probably save that first.
That's fair. That's fair. It's worth more than me. And then I'd make some nice crispy bacon out of the fire. So
Well, now I'm kind of hungry.
oh boy. Anyway, back to games.
Yeah. What else have you
Games.
been playing, Tiff?
I only didn't even get around to talking about the actual game. I was just too excited about the about the deal. But I could talk a little bit more about Forza. I didn't actually talk about it, and I have
Yeah,
played more of it.
go on. Go ahead.
Because there's two expansions for it. One is Lego themed, which is like
Lego
the more
themed?
famous one. It's like so. You get a new a new map, which is all like built out of Lego, which is pretty cool. And like you get a couple of cars which are made out of Lego too.
That's
So
pretty cool.
they're like cars which already exist in the game, but they're like new versions of them that are made out of Lego, and it is really cool. And it turns your drive as like a minifigure and everything while you're in it. It's really cool. That's like fun. It's obviously like really novel. And I tried that one first, and it is fun. It's fine. It's got a couple of nice additions. Like it's actually the first Forza Horizon game to have a actual racetrack circuit on the map, so you can actually do normal races. Um, and it's got like it's got it's technically a stunt park, but it's not that good, honestly. It's just got like a couple of ramps, and they're like, "Oh, it's a
Hmm.
stunt park." It's a bit boring. It's cool that it's there though, because I don't think that's not in the main game either.
I like
But
the idea that in the pit stops they just take the whole car apart and then put it back together. I think that would be really fun.
I should actually check the pit stop. That might be a thing. There's loads. Like the attention to detail in Forza is insane anyway. And if you just stop and look, as you're driving past houses, there's like minifigures sat outside the houses, and it is yeah. There probably is something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if I actually checked the pit stop. I haven't looked there, but it's got loads of funny little Easter eggs like that. If you just keep an eye out,
Fair
it is really
enough.
cool. It's just gameplay wise, it's just more of the same. I actually kind of prefer the other expansion, which is called Fortune Island, which takes you to what's like basically like the Isle of Man. It's just like a craggy rock off the side of Britain, and so this is more about like extreme racing. So there's like huge mountains and lightning storms on the island and loads of like muddy beaches, and it's just makes it like way more interesting races. And it's got this like really tall mountain, which at the top just kind of comes up into like a big rocky spike. It looks like something out of like Dragon Age or something. It's really cool. And the road going up that mountain, it sort of comes back and forth as it goes up. So it's designed for drifting basically, and it's just it's very cool. I spent like an hour just going up and down the road, just drifting. Before obviously going
Uh,
up to the top and just eating myself off as fast as I could, which naturally you've got to do at least once.
yeah, I don't know. I've never really gotten into the Forza games, but it sounds cool. It sounds like a fun time, especially like the attention to detail that I hear about Forza and stuff. It sounds, I don't know. It sounds like it's really good for people that are into that stuff.
It is cool. It's really fun. Honestly, I think Horizon would be fun for even people who aren't really into um racing games that much because it's just got like a good sense of fun, and there's loads of exploring as well. Like there's a huge the mainland map is really big. The expansion ones are quite kind of small, but the main one is quite big, and it encourages you to just explore. So you can find things, but you can even find cars by exploring. You can find
That's kind of cool.
you can find like abandoned cars, and they get picked up and taken back to your garage and fixed up, and it's cool. Um, yeah,
Mm,
it's just a generally all round really good game, and driving is just oh so good.
I
But
don't know. I've not been able to get into like a driving or a racing game in such a long time. I feel like there's not been one that I've picked up in a while and been like, I really want to get into this. I don't know. Maybe it's just not my thing really, which is weird because I don't have many games that aren't my thing except like sports games, FIFA, stuff like that.
Not great. But I think that's fair. I think good racing games that, in my opinion, they're kind of hard to come by. But I think that's because my taste for racing games is very specific. Um,
Mm,
like I don't mind simulation ones, like the normal Forza series, but they do get really boring quite quickly. um, my like idea of the perfect racing game is sort of like it's an arcade racer, but it's not goofy and over the top like most of them are. Like it still treats itself as if it's like a serious racing game. Like it'll have proper cars and proper tracks, but it'll control like an arcade racer. Um, which is what Ridge Racer is, which is why I like Ridge Racer so much, and it's what Forza is. Like Forza Horizon's perfect for me because it's a silly arcade racing game, but it's
mm.
built on the engine of a simulator. So it's that perfect middle ground that I look for. So that's why I like it so much because it kind of is just the modern. It's the logical step up from what Ridge Racer was doing in the 90s.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I do prefer my racing games to be more arcadey, personally.
Yeah, simulation ones definitely get boring very quickly.
As much as you see those guys that are really into those simulation games, though. They love cars, love talking about cars and touching cars and very very fast cars. I don't know if you've ever seen any of those presentations, but they really love those cars.
I love a good kill.
Like, look at the exhausts on that car.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, you get a bit of that in Forza. But I think that's bleeding over from the people who play Forza Motorsport. You definitely do get some people who are a little bit too nerdy about the cars. They maybe pay a little bit too much attention to the cars. Maybe touch the cars a bit too much. But besides, it's a good mix of people, good community. It's a very community driven game as well because there's loads of events, and it focuses on the online a lot, and they do add
Mm,
like new dailies and weeklies, and they're more interesting than your standard ones. They're not randomly generated; they're actually made by the devs every week. So got
that's
a cool
cool.
community. Yeah,
You know what?
it's a good
Actually,
game.
talking about races, I took part in a community race very, very
You
recently.
did. You did actually. I want to hear more about this because you mentioned this in passing. I didn't even know this was a thing in Arcade.
Yeah, so in Arcade, there's cars that you can get, and you got boosts and stuff. And someone had went out round and scouted out areas for tracks in the game, and then they put together like a prize pool for it. And first place got 1,000 gold, second got like 500, and third got 250 gold for coming in. And I got invited to this by someone who watched the stream. They were like, you talk about wanting to put this together all the time on the stream, and someone's putting it together on the server, and then they told me to check it out, so I signed up for it, went in, and it was actually a lot of fun. I ended up winning and coming first place. Well, technically I tied for first because the guy who came tied with me, I beat him in 2 of the 3 races. He was a really good sport about it and was like, you can have first place because you beat me, and especially in my last one. And it felt really cheap the way I beat him in the end because he was ahead of me and I couldn't get past him at this point. But there was the very end, the like community center at the end of the race. There was this big fence that was this farm that was right next to it, and we had to go round the side of that to get round to actually finish at the community center. And so the guy in front of me went around, and I boosted right at the fence and hopped it and drove right through the farm.
Nice.
And then watched the guy to my side as I just drove right to the finish line.
But it was a you move. Trust you to cheat your way through.
Well, there were no rules. They did say you could take shortcuts, so you know what? I overtook him, and I felt good about it, and it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I've recorded it all, so I'm hopefully gonna make it into a video at some point.
It'll be funny to see. I'm
But
looking
yeah.
forward to seeing that.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. It just popped into my head because you were like, I was like, yeah, I don't really do racing stuff, and then I was like, wait a minute. But yeah.
Should we talk about MGS maybe? Because we both played that together.
Oh yeah, we
Thursday.
did play a little bit of Metal Gear Solid on Thursday, and I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's a really fun game, but we were very out of it by the end of it.
Yeah, it was funny. I mean, I'll recap for people who are here now because I don't think anyone was actually even around for the end of our stream because we just took it on way too long and it was so late at night and everyone had given up and we should have given up like an hour earlier. It was ridiculous.
But I refused to give up against the boss.
So we were fighting Grey Fox and
Grey Fox.
Grey Fox, and I'd gotten through like. I said there's like 5 or 6 phases, isn't there? And I'd gotten through most of them. I was just struggling on like the last one. And I just hadn't figured out the trick to it, but I'd nailed all the other ones. And I was getting to that point fine. But because it was so late, and this was at about 1:15 in the morning, and I was like tired and grumpy and impatient, and I was like, "You have a go. I've had enough. You play some." And so I gave it over to Zan, which was such a stupid move because if I just kept going for another like 10 minutes, I easily would have beaten him because I was on the last phase. But what I did instead is I gave it to Zan, who hadn't done any of the battle so far, so he had to learn all the phases coming up to the end one.
On top of it, I was so asleep I didn't even notice that he was doing a tell the whole fight.
Yeah,
and then Tef had to tell me like halfway through, and I was like, oh. And then from there, I was just like nailing that phase.
We were such a mess because it's like a really obvious telegraph. Like when he's about to do the attack, it's really slow and really, really obvious because he
basically goes like this
and goes. Yeah, it's so obvious. It's so obvious, but you didn't notice, and I sat here just like this, watching you, and I watched it up again and again and again, and in my head I was like, he's missing the tell. I think, or something's going on. And I just didn't say anything for ages. And I watched you suffer for about 25 minutes before I told you about it because my brain just wasn't engaging. So it never occurred to me that I should just tell you that what you're missing because I was just watching you fail over and over again. It was such a mess. We were so tired. We should have just ended it an hour earlier. But yeah, we finished at about 2. I think it was exactly 2 a.m. actually that we finally finished.
Yeah.
And it was agonizing too because we actually finished the battle at about 10 to 2. Well, this me and Metal Gear Solid, we just had to sit there while Grey Fox monologued after being beaten, and we were like, it was honestly.
But yeah, there was like it was just there was so much time we wasted. Just I don't know what we were doing. And then at the end I just started like teabagging random guys in the hallway, which actually the camera was very cinematic. It had this cool thing where you walk up to a body, you could crouch down, you could see this like person dead, you can look at the wounds. As you're going down this hallway of bodies, you could look at each individual one. It was really cool. But I was just so out of it at that point. Teabag. Yeah, I used it for teabagging and spinning around in circles.
Yeah, we didn't notice it on the way into the battle. We just walked through, but on the way back out, because we were so tired, Sam was like, I'm gonna teabag them, and then we teabagged the first one, and the camera zoomed in for it, and we were laughing at that. So then we tried it on every other person, on every single body in that corridor has a dramatic zoom in. If you crouch down in front of it obviously wants you to sort of crouch down so it looks like Snake is inspecting the body.
Yeah,
we abused it. I had so much fun playing that though.
Yeah, and you were definitely supposed to do that on the way in, but we did it on the way out while spinning around in circles. And God, I wish I'd realized the tell so much earlier because that would have been over so much faster. Like I almost no damaged the boss at that point because we figured out you could also put the thermal on to find out where he is in the second phase, and it was.
I was destroying him so easily right up until the end phase. I don't know why I didn't just stick at it for another like 5 minutes. But
yeah.
I just had no patience. I was like, you do it. I just want to sleep.
On that last phase, actually, I also was so tired that instead of pressing the attack button, I was pressing the button to throw him over my shoulder instead. I didn't realize. And I was like, why does he keep doing this? I was like... I don't know how I did that mid-fight. It was the last phase of the fight, and I somehow ended up going from the attack button to the button to grapple them, and I was like,
Instead of hitting square, you were hitting circle. They're not
it was
even
the way.
close.
Yeah, I think it's circles the attack button, squares the grapple button, and I was hitting square over and over and going, this is very odd.
Oh, it was just ridiculous.
We were losing our minds. It was a descent.
Oh, I had so much fun playing that game. Though, like it's
It was a
a
lot of
really
fun.
good game.
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of fun because all the boss battles are like they're kind of like puzzles in a way as well, which I kind of like. It's got that going for it.
That's fair. For a lot of them, I think. Well, Grey Fox was obviously a bit more of a kind of. It was more about the actual fighting, wasn't it? That was about timing more than anything, and paying attention to Grey Fox and what he's doing,
Which we were not doing.
we were not doing.
But I mean, it had like the you can put on the thermal to find out where he is in the room and stuff like that. Which
Yeah, that was
I guess
clever,
we'd never really used the thermal before.
No. And it does encourage you to think outside the box, which I do like. Because when we were fighting, what's his name, Raven, is it, in the tank?
The tank.
You're meant to have the mine detector, but we didn't pick it up, did we? But we found out that you could detect the mines a different way. I can't remember how.
Was it with the thermal?
Did we have the thermals at that point? I don't know.
I think we had the thermal.
I don't think mines create any heat anyway. But there was a way that we could tell where they were, and we were using it.
I don't know. I don't know if we did. I think I just ran to the other side. Actually.
Or actually, I think we realized that you can crawl along the ground and just mash the pickup button or the action button.
Oh yeah, you could do that,
and you can just disarm them that way. So we just did that before starting the fight.
Yeah, that's what we actually ended up doing, if I remember, because I was like, I don't know, I feel like you need the mine detector to be able to do that, and I was like, oh, you can, because I remember just mashing that action button.
Action button. That's such a PS1 thing. Press the action button.
But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more. I mean, it gives you a pretty okay tutorial at the start of that game.
Yeah, it's funny how they could never be bothered to change the voice acting lines for each different platform it was on, so they would just make them generic. So you'd end up with situations where people would go, to jump, press the jump button.
You said that in like the way you said that is like in the cadence of like Lara Croft when she's explaining tutorial stuff to you.
Well, she does it, yeah. I was thinking of her in Lara's mansion. Press jump and forward together for me to clear the gap. Run back to the start and try again.
I wish there were more classic Tomb Raider games for us to play through, because doing Angel of Darkness was so much fun.
It was, man. I'm disappointed that we can't play more. I love the Tomb Raider games.
Yeah,
not the new ones. The new ones are shit.
They're okay. They're different. You know,
Just play Uncharted, it's better.
True, but you know, you got. I don't know. I feel like they did some okay stuff. I feel like they haven't come into. They don't really know exactly what they want to do with those games yet. It feels like they were getting somewhere with them after I played the later ones, but I feel like they still haven't solidified the idea of what they wanted to do with it. You know, they wanted to be several different things when they made those games.
Definitely, yeah. They've not been able to decide where they're going with it. I've heard that that Lara never develops beyond the origin story character. Even though the first game was meant to be all about how she becomes Lara, and then they just kind of kept that going for the other two games, from what I've heard. Which is
she's definitely not the same Lara in the third game as she is in the first game. I can say that. Because the first game, she's definitely more, you know, oh, I'm just an explorer girl off to explore. Oh no, I'm on an island and now a bunch of horrible stuff is happening. She definitely develops beyond that, though. You don't get dual pistols, which is very upsetting.
Well, you do for a quick time event in the final
in the
boss
very
battle,
end.
which is just a real kick in the teeth. Oh, that game really angered me when I first played it, man.
Listen, I'd be okay with that if I got dual pistols for the next two games. I would be okay with it ending me like, okay, now she's Lara Croft, but you don't get those. I don't think you can get them in two. I've only played the first and the third game because I skipped the second one because someone gifted me the third game, was like, yeah, you can play this, and I'm like, you know what, I'll play this, sure. I think the story kind of carries on from the second game, but it's also it still has a lot of origin story stuff. So there's like in the third game, it had like the past, and you were in the mansion as like a child Lara going around solving like a puzzle in your dad's attic and stuff like that. But yeah, it definitely develops the character a bit more. I can say
I
that.
think the problem is that the writing is just too bad for me to care. Like Lara is so boring, and all the supporting characters in the first in the reboot in Tomb Raider 2013, they were all painfully boring. And I don't really remember any of them. Except I do specifically remember the one character, Sam, who I remember. I remember her because she had so much potential and they just didn't use it, and that really irritated me. Um,
I don't remember Sam.
but well, let's see. They see that's the problem. It's just the writing is just really, really dull. And um, even if you compare that to the older Tomb Raiders, like it's never had good writing, but I think it's always been engaging enough to push you through. Um, it's always had like it's not good writing, but it's like fun sort of Saturday morning cartoon style.
Yeah, it's fun,
Um,
cheesy stuff, you know,
yeah, exactly. And but then if you line it up alongside Uncharted, which is what the new games are most obviously going to be compared to, because they're
which
most
is a
similar
movie.
to Uncharted. Uncharted's a big Michael Bay movie, but the thing is the characters are well written, the characters are
Yeah.
funny and likable and memorable, and you can't say that about any of the characters in Tomb Raider, and that's where it like really falls down for me.
Yeah, Tomb Raider, I don't really remember the characters from the first game. I know there's... I don't remember the name of the guy, but there's the one guy that's, he's kind of big and, looks kind of tough. And he's like, ooh, I'm also nice and caring, but also big and tough. And he's also in the third game. I don't remember his name at all.
I don't remember. I don't even remember him at all.
I
All
think he was in the
remember is
first
that
game at
Sam
least.
character. I really don't remember. I remember there's one guy who's like clearly they're just simping for Lara, and she finds him dying in the she goes back to the ship, like 2 days after the crash, she goes back to the ship, and he's like still lying in the ship dying slowly, which is like good fun. I vaguely remember that, but
I
that's
don't
yeah. I
remember
just
that at all.
again no, I only remember him because I remember thinking that he was such a bad character. He sticks out to me because he was so bad. The
Okay.
only time they can make a memorable character is when they're so memorably awful.
I just remember in the third game, at one point, Lara thinks that all her friends have been killed, and so she ends up turning into the Terminator and takes this machine gun off a guy, and then you're just gonna walk through this area gunning people down while blowing stuff up, and I was like,
Jesus.
I'm down for
like
this.
Lara Croft I know and love.
Yeah, I'm like, this is what I wanted from the game.
This is something that they've kind of moved away from. Crystal Dynamics have never really done it, but like the original core design, Lara was like low key quite a psychopath, and I do kind of miss that.
She was
about
very
her.
cold.
Very cold. Like she wouldn't like if she had any supporting characters who were along for the ride with the adventure. I wouldn't say that she'd throw them to the wolves, but if they fell into the path of the wolves, she wouldn't really help them. And that literally happens in the first cutscene of Tomb Raider 1.
The guy just gets... I mean, Lynch's like, oh.
Literally eaten by wolves. And and Lara, like, tries to save him, and she's not quick enough. But she kind of just walks over to him, looks at him, sees he's dead, and just goes, oh, well, and walks away.
I mean, there's a lot of moments where people are dying in that game.
Minutes.
There's a lot of people who are dying in the old Lara Croft games, and Lara's just like, yeah, but like, she'll either like just be like, hey, can I get info or something, and then or just leave them, stuff like that.
Yeah. And there's a guy at the start of Tomb Raider 2 who poisons himself, and Lara just goes, oh, and walks away.
But yeah, we've not really been playing Lara Croft, have we? Have we been playing any Tomb Raider games?
No. But I
don't know how we got here, but Tomb Raider is good. Metal Gear, I guess we somewhere from there.
Somehow. So tell me about Danganronpa. You finally finished Danganronpa.
Yeah, so I finally finished the first Danganronpa game, and it was I feel like because I left so much time in between me predicting what would happen in the end and me actually going in, I felt like there should have been something more, maybe. There was something more that I've missed. But I went in and it felt like how the trial felt was I was going and I was like, okay, I already know this. Let's get to the part where I don't know something. And then I felt like that for the whole trial. And then there was the one part where it shows the outside world very briefly. And then I'm like, that's the only point where I'm like, okay, I knew the world was destroyed. I don't kind of already suss that out. But then you just see like, you just see Monokuma heads on like the pyramids and stuff. And I'm like, this might be a little too anime for me. What's going on? How does this happen? Like everything is logic, like makes logical sense up to this point, and then it's just like, yeah, Monokuma's head is on pyramids and the Eiffel Tower and stuff, and I'm like,
yeah, the Monokuma's head is yeah. It's just kind of, I kind of get what they're going for, like a symbol of despair, or like a symbol of this terrorist organization, essentially. But Danganronpa's head is just too goofy, isn't it?
It is far too goofy.
Is it, you know? So yeah, it is a bit silly. Am I correct in thinking, from what I remember about the ending of Danganronpa 1, you don't actually get a definitive answer about what's happened to the world?
No.
I believe it ends just before you find out, doesn't it?
Yeah, so they all open the door and they're like, yeah, we're going to go out there with hope and we'll bring hope into oh yeah, you have this whole one segment where it's like, I'm going to, you know what, if despair can, you know, I forget how they phrase it, can be shared or whatever, then so can hope. And then you have a part where you've got to like take your hope, turn it into a bullet and then shoot it at everyone else.
It's basically what you've been doing for the whole game in a way. Yeah, the symbolism in that game is heavy-handed, to say the least.
Yeah. But
with hope and despair.
But yeah, it doesn't actually show you the outside world, and I feel like I felt a little disappointed that I never got anything new from going in, because I feel like I could have not played the ending, and I already knew what was going to happen at that point, because I'd already sort of thought about it enough to figure out the whole ending. But what I can appreciate is that it all makes logical sense for the most part. The two things I didn't really know that I was like, I wanted to know more about is like, how were they taking memories? And then they have a line in there that's like, well, I could explain how I took memories, but it doesn't really matter, does it? You wouldn't believe me either way, you know? Could be a mind tricks. I could have used some machine. Doesn't matter. You wouldn't believe me. So I'm not going to get into that. And I'm like, of course. And then the only other thing I actually didn't realize was apparently the twins were working together, but that doesn't really matter.
Well, they thought they were working together.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I can't even remember the name of the one who dies now. But I mean, Junko immediately betrayed.
Mukuro Ikasaba.
That's it. Yeah, Mukuro. Yeah. Yeah. Junko immediately betrays her anyway. I do think that is. I like that though, because it does. It's the way it shows you the big spoilers, Danganronpa, by the way. I just realised. Maybe not listen to this part if you've not played it or you want to have the end spoiled. But I like the way it replays the opening section where she dies, and it's the way as she's dying, she says, "Why is this happening? This isn't how it was meant to happen."
Does she say that? I don't remember that happening.
Along those lines, anyway. And it's that's not verbatim. Something along those lines. She's obviously confused, and it's very cleverly written so that when you first hear it, you assume it's sort of a "why is this happening? I can't believe I'm dying" sort of last thought thing. You know, the way people that's kind of the stereotypical, isn't it? Like, why? And then they drop dead. Like it's phrased so that you can read it that way, so that you will read it that way when you first see that scene. But then when you know what's going to happen, when you see how it's said again, you're like, okay, no, what she's actually saying is, why am I being betrayed? I'm not meant to be killed, because that wasn't the plan. That they obviously wasn't the original plan. She was meant to be there the whole time and meant to be influencing the group into doing certain things, but Junko just kills her immediately and gets her all the way.
Yeah, it's I think that was the one part that the one part going in is like, well, maybe I thought maybe, you know, because they had the whole memory thing, they just replaced their memories and made them think they were Junko. That's what I thought going in, but it was just, oh no, they just, you know, they thought they were working together and got betrayed because this person's just quite clearly mad. And then because they're hard to predict. By that point, you're like, oh, so like their whole motives are just like, yes, despair.
Yep.
I just want to feel things.
Yeah, she's a bit of a cartoon villain, really, Junko.
Yeah.
I'd say enjoy it while you can, because that is the only ending that's any good and the only one that makes any
Oh.
logical sense. The endings of Danganronpa 2 and 3 are awful. Um, 2 is kind of the opinion split on that. Some people quite like that ending. I hate it. And
Mm.
3 is kind of universally hated. I can kind of appreciate what 3 is going for. I just don't think it pulls it off as cleverly as it thinks it does. But 2 is just bad. And yeah,
Yeah.
the way you appreciate that it all makes sense logically, that's not going to be a thing going forward.
That's
2
kind of
and
sad.
3, 2 especially really irritates me because it kind of just it pulls something out of left field that it hadn't been hinting to, and that just
So I
feels
won't
really
be able to
cheap.
pick up on it.
I mean, yeah, probably might actually make it more enjoyable for you, but it just felt really cheap for me.
Well,
Like
I
it
actually I
hadn't.
kind of like that I could predict everything. You know, I like that
Mm.
I could figure out the whole game before the end.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean that's one of the thing that's really good about the first game is
mm,
it is designed that way. It does leave hints all the way through the story.
yeah, because that's when there's a crime investigation and stuff, you should be able to like figure that stuff out. And
Mm.
I hope you still do that with the individual cases in the other games. I hope that's still the case.
Yeah. The 2 and 3 are both great until the final case.
Okay. But yeah, I actually briefly looked on the store page at 2, and I was like, I was thinking about picking it up, and then I looked through, and then I saw a kind of familiar face, and I was like, this seems very strange. I don't know how this makes sense.
Oh, don't worry, it makes sense. That is explained logically. Don't worry.
I assume that's not that's not actually Togami.
I ain't saying nothing,
Okay.
but it does make sense logically. They do explain it quite well.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I saw that and I was like, okay. Yeah, it just it's very odd. He's a rather large fellow in the picture I saw. It's like, I'm
I know
pretty sure
he's
that's not him.
stressed these days. Had a lot going on.
Little stress, some stress eating after all that.
I think that's only fair, isn't it? He deserves
Yeah.
it.
Oh, but yeah, that's it for Danganronpa. Have you been playing anything else, Steph?
I've been playing a little bit more Yakuza. About I'm roughly about halfway through now because there's 14 chapters and I'm on 7 now, and which is making slow progress. I've been totally sidetracked during chapter 7 because there's like 10 sub stories in this chapter, so I just been going around doing them
Mm.
before carrying on with the main story. Um, it's I mean it's good. I'm still enjoying it. It's still slowly introducing mechanics to me in that way that JRPGs do, where like 60% of the game is the tutorial. Um, I just got access to the job system, and I don't really like it. It's not good at all. So
Oh.
um, it's got a system kind of like the job system started in some Final Fantasy games, where every character has sets of jobs that they can switch over to. Some overlap, some don't. Some are like unique to each character. Um, my main problem with a lot of them is that each character is still more or less assigned a role in the party dynamic, and each job basically changed the theme of that character, like of their visual theme, but their attacks will still more or less be the same. Like their attacks and their abilities are still basically more or less the same.
They're just like
Like it,
cosmetic.
yeah, so you can't take someone, you can't say take the tank character and change him into a healer. You can't do that. All of
I'm
his
curious, are the classes like chefs and stuff, but the chef is like a support or a healer or something? How's
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
There's one character is the tank, and he has abilities which um aggro other enemies, so that he can't really he's not great with attacking,
Mm.
but he can most of his jobs have abilities where you can aggro onto him because he's got like good defense and good health. So everyone like strapped up attacking him whilst the other DPS people handle it. His his classes are just basically like bodyguard is what I've got him set to at the minute. He's just got riot gear, but it's everything is
Mm.
still. He's always a tank no matter what job you pick. The only one I can think of which does mix up his style is there is one where he can do hard hitting attacks that cost him health.
Okay.
That's the only one where he can attack back. Otherwise, he's kind of crap at attacking, honestly. But yeah, so he's got that. There's a girl who is just always a support character, no matter what job you give her. She's always quite crap at attacking, and she's just like basically the support character. So I've made her an idol. She's a J-pop
Okay.
idol, so she sings songs to
She's the
heal and
bard.
buff the characters. Yeah, she's literally the bard. Yeah. And then there's Namba, who's his standard job is homeless guy. That's literally what it's called. Um, and he's just like your DPS spellcaster basically, and
He's like your rogue, your thief.
he's kind of like I'd say he's basically like kind of like a mage sort of thing. He's
Okay.
sort of like all of his jobs are just variations on DPS. And he was what made me realize that things were so similar actually, because when he's the homeless guy, he's got a ability where he like it's called like fire breath or something. Like he swigs from a bottle of like cheap wine and then spits it out, and it sets fire in midair and burns everyone. It's like a really like stupid move, but it's just like does this AOE cone attack where it sets fire to everyone like within the cone range.
Mm.
And I've set him to chef class, which is like basically exactly the same. Like he's got a spell where it does the exact same thing, except now he's flambeing them with a blowtorch, but it does the exact same thing. It's just like it
Okay.
just looks different. You know what I mean? So I'm really not impressed with the job system,
Yeah.
and it doesn't really encourage experimentation either, because you have like you have character levels, but you also have job levels. And if you switch over to a new job, you'll be inexperienced in it, and you'll be job level 0, and you have to build the job level up again. And the thing is, the job levels contribute to your stats in the same way your character level does. So if I switch over to a new job that I've not done before, my character gets weaker. So I have to
Okay.
just grind to get that job level up to a point where it'll be as good as the other ones. So it's not really encouraging experimentation. I've basically just I messed around for a little bit in the chapter where they were first introduced, found my favorite job for each character that I've got so far, and then I'm just going to stick with that because it's just not worth the hassle of changing. It doesn't
Mm.
encourage you to experiment at all.
It sounds like Yakuza 7 has a lot of like teething problems moving into the more JRPG style of combat, but it sounds like it could be really fun and has a lot of potential. Like also I've seen one of the summons in the game, and the summons just seem very silly and ridiculous, and I
Yeah, the
love
summons are
stuff like
great.
that.
It's really good. I'm not saying it's a bad RPG. It's definitely not. It does have teething issues. It's the first time
Mm.
they've done an RPG, but it's fine in most regards, honestly. And the balance is fine, which I think is the main thing you really want, isn't it? The balance is absolutely fine, because the old Yakuza games had RPG light elements anyway, so they already
Yeah.
had stats. They've got some experience in dealing with that anyway, so that part of it is fine. And yeah, the summons are great. I keep meaning to bring up the summons in the podcast actually, because they are so funny. So it's actually an app. It's you get a sub story which introduces it. It's an app on your phone called Pound Mates, which just looks and sounds in every way like a dating app.
Okay.
But what it is you call one of your pound mates on the app, and it brings someone around to help you pound someone else, and it's all very innuendo heavy, but it's like you're literally just calling people in to help you defeat someone. And yeah, they are just essentially summons, and they're ridiculous. I've got like a 10-year-old child. I think I've got a rooster for some reason. Got a big hench hairy guy who's just in his underwear, and yeah,
Of
they are
course he's
really
just in his
silly and
underwear.
stupid. Of course he is.
Couldn't be a Yakuza game unless you have a guy like that.
There's actually a few guys who just wander around in their underwear in this game.
Oh.
There was one sub story, and I won't spoil it. But I'll say it was great. It called back to Yakuza 0 in multiple ways, because it kind of it had the dominatrix trope, and it kind of had the Mr. Libido trope as well, mixed into one storyline. It was a really good sub story.
Okay.
Bit of a callback to some of the best sub stories in Yakuza Zero.
Yeah, I remember people really liked that one when I did it on stream. I remember being like, nope, get me out of this. This is not fit for stream.
I think that Yakuza Zero dominatrix one is like the most famous sub story by far, which I think it deserves, to be fair. Like, I think the story by itself wouldn't even be that bad if it was just Kiryu teaching a dominatrix how to do a job, because that's actually not even that unusual for Yakuza, and for Kiryu to not even see how weird it is standard Kiryu.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the joke, isn't it? Because Kiryu's like famously got such massive virgin energy and doesn't understand sex, so he doesn't see how awkward the situation is. So he's just kind of talking about it like it's a normal, like he's helping, like he's helping someone cook a roast dinner is how he talks about it, isn't it? But the fact that there's like two 8-year-old kids, the
Yeah,
fact that
just
they're doing it
watching.
in a park and there's two kids on swings just listening, and
Yeah.
they understand what's happening, but Kiryu doesn't. It's just so good. Oh, what a series.
Yeah,
Once again, I'm just fanboying.
I was gonna pick up one. Yeah, I was gonna pick up 1 and 2, but it's not on sale. You're on the Steam sale. I was very disappointed.
That's disappointing.
It's typical, but it is what it is. I'm trying to think. I've also played a couple of indie games. I played a few last night, and they were rather interesting. The first one I played was Retro Synthesis, which it was like an indie adventure sort of game, and it looks like it has a lot of potential. It's got this it's got this like cartoon comic book style to it, and you play a detective in this. I think it's an alternative reality where, I think it's set in the 90s, but obviously it's all like future cyberpunkish looking tech, and it doesn't really take you into much, but it has all like the standard adventure things with the intro. You go in, there's like files to read, you pick them up, and it's got like an interesting world and stuff, and the police deliver you a package through your window, stuff like that. And then the problem was it was really short. It had such awful motion blur as well, and you couldn't turn that off. But that's having like options like that is kind of, it's a demo, so I don't really expect too much, but I'd hope they'd fix that in the full version. But yeah, it then ends with you going up to the elevator, and there's two very obvious like bad guys that come out, and then one of them's just I don't know, he's like, he either says you or yo, and then just smacks you in the face, and that's the end of the demo. And I was just like, okay.
What a guy.
I just was like, sure, that's how that ends. And what else did I play? I played Billy Bust Up, I think it's called, which is like a collectathon. It's like an old school collectathon, similar to like Banjo and stuff like that. And
yes, please.
All it really had so far, it's still a Kickstarter, so all it had was a test level where you went in, kind of like Ukulele's test level if you played ukulele. It had one of those. You'd go in and you just mess about with the mechanics, and there was like, you could swing off poles, you could bunny hop around, jump off walls and stuff, and swim. It had all the basic mechanics, and then it had one boss fight for you to play. So we played that, and it was actually kind of fun. It had a lot going on with the boss fight, and I believe all the bosses are musical, so they all kind of sing and have like a song that goes along with the fight, and all their abilities match up to the song and stuff. So cool. I found that to be really fun. It was like a very good music as well. It fit very well. It felt very much like a Disney villain or something. That kind of scenario. So yeah, it was definitely super inspired by stuff like Banjo, and I think it has a lot of potential. It's still very rough though, from what I've seen. But yeah, we also played that, and then there was the one other game? I'm sure there was one other game, but I don't remember. I tried to play Them and Us, which was like a Resident Evil type game. Unfortunately, it didn't want to work, so we didn't really get into that. But
Resident Evil.
Yeah, it was like an old school survival horror. So it was
Ah, yeah.
It looked
Okay.
like
I'm just looking at
potentially it could be like Resident Evil or Silent Hill. It looked like it had that kind of thing going on with it, but it did talk more about like a mansion and stuff. So I was like, it's probably more Resident Evil inspired. But
it. Oh, it looks very Resident Evil inspired.
yeah. So the other one that I played actually was called Everything is Garbage, which was a very strange one that I played, it was like a management clicker sort of type game, and you had a pile of garbage that you started off with, and then you unlocked buildings, and so I think the first building you had like a turnip farm you can put down, and you'd connect the garbage to the turnips, and the garbage would slowly, pile into the farm, and that would produce turnips. And then you could have a market, and you'd send the turnips to the market to sell and make money. And then there were other garbage piles that you could buy around the area that would cost various amounts and would give you more land to put stuff down. And as you progressed, you could build more and more stuff. So eventually I could build a cow pen and then a steakhouse, and I could sell the steaks, or I could potentially build a motel, and then I could send the steaks to the motel, and that would then produce children. And then you could send the children to you could send them to the mines at one point, and I did need to. So I sent some of the children off to the mines, and then others you could send off to school, and then you needed to produce like a forester and a book mill and stuff like this to send books to the school alongside the children, and that would then produce adults. And then you'd send the young adults, and then you'd send them off to university, or you could send them off to a bank, and then the bank would produce money, and you'd send that off to the market, and you could connect it all up. And eventually it got to the point where, I had some children going to the mines to produce stuff to then eventually, it produced the material that I'd then send to a sweatshop. Oh yeah, you had to build sweatshops as well, of course.
This looks so happy and colourful and friendly when I looked it up.
Yeah. So then then the materials that the children mine, you send to the sweatshops, and you also get sheep pens, and you can send the wool from there to the sweatshops as well to make jumpers, and then you send the stuff from the sweatshops to the university alongside adults, and then the adults, you can produce 2 different types of adults from there, and then you send those adults to startups, and then at the startup they produce ideas, and then these ideas then go to the obelisk, which is a giant pyramid with a $sign, and you just send them there, and apparently it equals money, and you just send the ideas there, and every now and then it just shoots off this big loud blast, and didn't produce any money, so I felt like I was just funding a pyramid scheme in the end.
I feel like this game's got an agenda to push.
That's kind of the feeling I got. Was the message maybe was everything is garbage.
Yeah, it cut a bit deeper than I expected. I want to give that a go, though. It sounds insane.
It was very silly. I just liked seeing all these like babies being sent to a mine, and
I'll clip that.
They needed to be sent to the coal mines to produce the coal that I needed for the sweatshop. So I could fund my startup.
Just like the children.
And make more money. But yeah, that's all the indie games that I've played. I think that's all I played this week as well. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I played a little bit of Crusader Kings. I messed around with the ruler designer in that, and that was fun. You can actually... Oh. You can actually... It's fine. You can actually put all the traits on at once if you want, which was very interesting.
Oh boy. Someone's going to be overpowered.
So, I put them all. I put like Cannibal on as well. And I went in very briefly, and then apparently I held a banquet, I held a little feast. And I gave my wife a very delicious meal that I happily prepared for her. And I'd given a lot of myself to the meal. And apparently I was maimed after this meal.
What did you give her? Bangers and mash?
I think I gave her like an arm or something. I don't know what happened. We're gonna just cut off one of my arms. It was like, here you go, enjoy.
Well, that'll be good fun. We should maybe save that until next week because I know that
Yeah.
we're going to be playing some Crusader Kings. We're going to get a gang together to experiment with this ruler designer.
Oh yes. But yeah, that's everything for this week that I've been playing at least. Anything you wanna leave on, Tef?
I think that is everything that I've been playing. That takes us nicely up to break time anyway. Now we
It
can
does.
come back for the news.
All right, so we'll go take a quick 5-10 minute break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll talk about all the gaming news. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back. And we're back. Welcome back, everyone. This joke makes no sense to non-live viewers, which we have so many of. Okay, and we're back.
Ouch.
All right, welcome back, everyone. Let's get into the gaming news. I don't know why I had to do it like that. I don't know why. I don't know why I had to do this. But
Would you
yeah,
take it away, pal? Because I can't load the article.
Oh well.
Okay, there we go. It's come on now. Hey.
Okay, but yeah, it's been a little bit of a slow news week.
Snow news week.
You know what? We're coming up on December. Let's hope for a white Christmas.
Oh no, don't say that. It just makes me think of Black Mirror now. White Christmas.
I've not watched Black Mirror. Why? What does that mean?
White Christmas is a particularly depressing episode which involves a dead child.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I was thinking more so the song, but that's fine.
Yeah, see, it's been ruined forever now.
Well, that's the way it goes. It is what it is, All right.
What's the news, pal?
So, let's talk about the PS5, which, I know you want to talk about, Tef. I know you love the PS5. Love talking about the PS5. A lot of people bought it. Did you know? Did you know a lot of people bought the PS5?
Even more people tried to buy one.
But yeah, it's the biggest ever console launch in the UK, which is massive. I mean, the gaming market's growing and growing, and it's kind of no surprise. But
I mean, but it kind of is at the same time though, because when you can't even get one, when they don't have enough stock, it's mad that they've still managed to break records, really.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is amazing that it's hit this milestone, I guess. But also, a lot of people didn't get a PS5, didn't right, Tef?
Don't. I'm not going to talk. I've spoken about this quite enough on the podcast. I'm not going to reopen wounds.
Well,
at least I didn't get pet food though, so
yeah,
I got that going for me.
Because people were apparently just getting. I think it was Amazon that were just sending them random items instead of the PS5.
Well, this is the thing. People were getting all kinds of strange items in the Amazon box, instead of a PlayStation. And leading some people to think that what's actually happening is that Amazon couriers are opening the boxes, taking the PlayStation, putting something else in there, and then resealing it, which is certainly a possibility. It's all anecdotal, though. I mean, I think Amazon did make a public statement saying that they were going to investigate their drivers because they were taking the allegations seriously, but nothing concrete's actually come out yet. I've just seen I've seen one person on Reddit say that their box came with just basically gaffer tape on it instead of the standard Amazon branded tape, so they knew that theirs had been stolen. But that's Reddit, whether you can believe that.
Yeah, it is hard to believe just random people on the internet, especially when some of these stories break out. A lot of people will go out of their way to make their own meme versions of the initial problem, which. How many of these are real, we don't know, but also the idea that, people are just getting pet food. They're opening their box and be like, oh, finally, the PS5 has arrived, and then they just get pet food.
It's so awful.
But, I just thought it'd be an interesting one to bring up, because PS5 is a big thing a lot of people have bought.
it's I mean, it's a really, really cool piece of tech. It genuinely is, and it makes you think. If there was enough stock out there so that everyone who wanted one could have gotten one, I wonder what the figures would have been like, because the figures don't even
Yeah.
represent. They don't. These sales figures don't really represent the actual levels of interest. I mean, maybe they do to an extent, because there will have been a lot of bots that bought 40 units. So I guess
Mm.
if you'd been able to take them out of the equation, maybe, or most people would have been able to actually get one. It's hard to tell, but yeah, it's just when you think about how many people who missed out on one, it really makes you think that this is a huge, huge launch, and it is showing
Mm.
how big gaming's gone over the past decade or so.
Yeah, and I think this year especially, gaming's become even more prevalent.
Mm.
Like, it's been just something people have needed to keep them going.
Man, it's definitely kept me going this year. I mean,
Yeah.
look at me. Look at what I'm doing right now. That's basically down to this year.
Yeah,
It's
you
just
you ended up on Twitch.
oof,
How low you've
never
fallen.
saw that coming. Oh god, just needed something to do, some sort of project to work on, and here I
Yeah,
am.
you are.
So
But
here I am.
yeah, there has also been promises that they'll get some stock back in before the end of the year. Don't you worry, guys. So I'm just, I'm giving you a little bit of hope, Tef. And
No, I'm not. I'm not gonna try again. It's fine.
no,
It's fine. I
okay,
bought an SSD yesterday for my computer, so that's fine. It's basically a PlayStation now, anyway.
it's the same thing. Just
It's basically a PlayStation. I
paint it
mean,
black.
shut up. I'm dying on that hill. In those images, it looks black. I don't care. It's just it
Uh,
just does.
uh, I'm never letting that one go. It's
It's fine. Don't. I will die on that hill.
uh. But yeah, scalpers have been just a massive problem. They always are, especially with console launches. But this one especially, I think a lot of people were trying to get one, and it's a problem that's gotten worse and worse over the years. But yeah, it's I don't know. Hopefully there'll be more stock in. Hopefully everyone gets a PS5 in time for Christmas. Don't you worry. Father Christmas will come down the chimney with your PS5, guaranteed. Or he wants. Or a scalper will rob him on the way. One of the two. But yeah.
Something does need to be done about the whole scalping situation. It's
Mm,
I'm not going to try again, because it's genuinely not worth the stress. Like, it's an incredibly stressful situation to be in, because you don't know that you've got that PlayStation until it's literally in your
yeah, I think it
hand.
was more stressful for you because you'd worked in a bank and you kind of know how the whole thing works.
No, it's not even that. Like,
Well,
taking
you
aside
sort
all
of
my
okay,
situation,
yeah,
I don't mean that. I mean, there's so many points where it can go wrong, because there's just so many issues with the supply chain. Like, you can
mm,
you can be in my situation, and you can pay for one, but there's no confirmation that you got one. So you don't know whether you've got one at that point, and then you might get a confirmed order, but it might get cancelled randomly. That happens. Um, it can get dispatched, but then it might not arrive, because so many couriers are just straight up stealing them. We've just had that article about people
yeah.
getting the wrong thing in the boxes, but there's also been, and this is proven, because people have these, like, is it Ring they're called, the doorbells with the
Oh
cameras
yeah,
in
the
them.
the
So
ring cameras, yeah.
there's actually evidence of this. Like, there's been couriers who've been showing up outside the door, um, marking off that they've tried to deliver it, and then leaving with the PlayStation. um like, people are so desperate for one. So many couriers must be losing their jobs over this, because that they want one more than they want the job. So it's not worth the stress. You have to
Mm,
you're just checking constantly, day in, day out. Because when my order was confirmed and they said it was going to get dispatched, I was checking by the hour. I was checking the status of the order, because things can go wrong at any point, and it is not worth, it is really not worth that level of stress. It's just genuinely not. It's, in a few months' time, you'll be able to get one easily anyway. So it's just,
yeah,
and it's meant to be fun, and I wasn't actually having any fun, so it's fine. I'm
yeah.
fine.
It is.
I'm fine.
I feel like we reopened the old wounds you didn't want to reopen. Then I feel like you were bleeding out all over the stream there, all over the podcast.
I don't want to talk about it.
It's okay. You know what? Should we talk about something more fun? Should we talk about battle royales? Because we love battle royales on this podcast. Nothing more do I enjoy playing than a battle royale.
Oh, boy.
PUBG, Call of Duty, Warzone, Cold War, Warzone, Apex Legend of the Duty. Yeah, I'm all about battle royales.
How did you not mention Fortnite?
Fortnite, that's also one. Fortnite poggers. Kids love the Fortnite, right? I'm gonna build Fort and
Stop talking.
night it down. Okay, well, Halo Infinite has a rumor that it's gonna have a battle royale mode launching in 2021, which it might come up before the game.
Just closed down the whole studio. They are clearly useless. You can tell
it's the latest trend that you're jumping on. Yeah.
No, but it's what's interesting about this story to me, more so than the actual battle royale, is what this says about Halo's development. Because we've been watching this very closely on the podcast, and you can tell that last week someone went, "Do you know what I think would be a good idea for Halo? I think we should add a battle royale mode in." And someone's gone, "That's a great idea," and they've knocked up a quick
Have a
test of it, and then
promotion.
they've announced that it's gonna be a thing now. It's they're just making it up as they go. They're like, they clearly don't know what they want this game to be, and they can't even develop it fast enough either. It's gonna come out in about 3 years' time, and it's still not gonna be finished, I think.
Do you know what? I think this is going to come out before. It's going to come out before Halo, and it'll be a free mode that comes out, and it'll be like advertising for the main game, and be integrated in with the main game once the main game comes out. And I think that's what this is going to be, because they want to jump on the latest trend, and you've got to have your battle royale and your battle pass, because they're the hot things that all the kids are into. They love battle royales and they love battle passes. None of those loot boxes anymore. It's all about the battle pass, which, to be fair, I don't have a big problem with battle passes. I think they're...
No, it's a lot better than...
Yeah, I think they're a good method of doing rewards. But
they still irritate me slightly in paid games, but I think in Fortnite, it's a great way of doing it.
Yeah.
Because you can play the game for free, or you can buy the game. It makes sense. If you buy the game, you get more content. You know, that's a great model as far as I'm concerned. Everyone benefits from that. It's a little bit different when you've already bought the game and they add a battle pass in, but
yeah, that can definitely...
Still better than loot boxes or microtransactions. So
very true. But yeah, I think that's what this is gonna be. I think they were just like, you know what? Steve just was like, hey, guys, we should put a battle royale. My kid Tim, little Timmy, he was talking about Fortnite and how much he loves Fortnite. But I was like, don't you like the Master Chief? He's look at him. He's big. He wears big armor. He's got a gun. Look how cool he is. He's like, well, he do I get to play him in a battle royale, Dad? No. Oh well, there's the problem.
It's just it's embarrassing. Maybe it'll be good. I don't know.
I think it could have potential,
but it's 343, and they're making the same mistake they have always made, where they're just chasing whatever all the other shooters are doing, which is just missing the point of Halo entirely.
Yeah, it's supposed to, like... I feel like Halo, it always did something different, you know, to what the shooters were doing at the time on console, because it felt more like... It felt like more like an in-between between like a PC arena sort of shooter and, you know, the standard shooters that you'd get on a console. It felt like it could have been a PC game, but it was slowed down for console. That's how Halo always felt to me.
It also, if you remember, it used to be the game that drove these trends. It didn't follow them in the past. When Bungie did it, it was at the forefront. It was always coming up with new ideas, and now I feel like it's very rare that you'll see something that's a fresh idea in a free Halo game. A lot of them are just following whatever is the latest thing in Call of Duty usually. Because like Halo 4, for example, has Spartan Ops, which is awfully similar to the Spec Ops mode from Modern Warfare 2, and it's even got a similar name. it's sad. There's no creativity in that studio at all, and it's just it's really embarrassing now. But it's so sad for me. It's like a Halo fan for as long as I can remember, basically. Since the
Mm.
first game came out, I've been there for that series. It's sad to just see it withering away. If Infinite comes out and it's a mess, which it's looking like it's going to be, I think Microsoft might just start pushing it aside and will make something else the mascot for Xbox because it's clearly not working.
Yeah, it's a little worrying that they're at this point now where they're just throwing they're just throwing whatever they can in Halo and being like, because they showed us the teaser of it and they were like, okay, we have this general idea of what we're doing with the game, and then a bunch of people seemed to step down afterwards, and a lot of people weren't happy with how the game looked, and then they were like, well, we're gonna delay the game a little bit, we're gonna add in a battle royale mode, the kids love battle royale, what else can we do to keep them going? But yeah, I don't know. I hope Halo Infinite is good because I really want another good Halo game, and I think it could be a smart idea to have a battle royale if the main game is actually really good, and if they're not just taking time out of development to make this separate game mode that we don't really need in a Halo.
And they're already struggling with
Yeah.
what's already in the game. That's what concerns me. It's the feature creep side of it. They couldn't even handle the standard multiplayer in the campaign, and now they're adding more work.
Yeah. It does seem like feature creep. It seems like they're just going to keep adding ideas while they've got more time now because they've delayed the game, and they're kind of moving resources from the main project. But I don't know. We'll see. Other than that,
speaking of Bungie, anyway.
Yeah.
We have some news about them, don't we?
We do. You want to get into it?
Yeah. So we don't really have much.
It's not much.
But it's an exciting thought. They've teased that they are working on different IPs outside of Destiny. They said that they've got a deep bench of talent that have been incubating some new ideas. That's cool. I mean, they've been working on Destiny for quite some time now. It's like what about I think 2013 was the first time we saw Destiny.
It's been a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely been a long time now. So it'd be cool to see them do something else. Bungie are a kind of funny studio where they've always sort of done the same kind of thing. Like Marathon back in the 90s was if you go back and play that, it's got a lot in common with Halo. Halo was like the logical move forward from Marathon, and they kind of recycled the story. And then they did the same thing again with Destiny, where Destiny built on Halo's ideas and recycled the story.
Well, I mean, Destiny didn't do a good job at story, I don't think, personally.
I'm not saying it had a good story necessarily. It's just that the themes are
We're
really
very similar.
Yeah, themes, design, everything. It's the same with Marathon. Marathon has a lot in common with Halo in terms of the story.
I just wanted to clarify that's what you meant.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying I haven't played enough of Destiny to actually comment on the quality of it at all. I played the beta of Destiny 1 and I think like it, and I've never gone back. So.
I played Destiny 2 and I think the gunplay in that game feels really good because it's Bungie. Like everything, like it feels good to play, but I don't know. It was an MMO at the end of the day. It never had that. Yeah, it had the grind and never really had the end game content when I got there, so I wasn't super interested after I finished one playthrough of the game.
Yeah. So, well, this is the point I was going to make. Is I'm wondering whether is this new idea gonna do the same thing that as they've done in the past with the Marathon to Halo transition and then the Halo to Destiny one, or is it going to be something totally different? How much is Activision's influence gonna lean into it? Because Bungie's kind of Destiny itself is kind of been wrecked by Activision being involved. Let's be real. That's the reason why it's so grindy in the first place. So,
I mean, Activision's influence over Blizzard and Bungie is like, it's definitely not had a great effect, as we can tell from especially a lot of recent stories where we've seen Blizzard devs, splitting off from the company and then making their own studios.
It's funny too because Blizzard and Bungie always claim that Activision don't have much say in how their games are made and how their businesses are run, and they say that it's all overblown and it's not true. And I don't believe that for a second.
I'm sure
Especially
they
since
have quite a lot of influence over their PR statements, though.
exactly, yeah, and the fact that they've both released very similar PR statements about that situations. Okay.
Yeah.
Whatever you say, and you can also see it in both cases. There's a significant downturn for Blizzard and Bungie in their timeline the moment Activision steps in. Like
Mm.
it's actually instantaneous in both cases. Because I believe Activision started to get involved in Blizzard around the time World of Warcraft was at like the Cataclysm Pandaria stage, right? So
I think, yeah. I think it was. I think Diablo 3 was
yeah,
where I was like. I don't know why I said it like that. Diablo 3 was like where.
Diablo.
Diablo.
Yeah. So you can actually see an instant change because Cataclysm is the beginning of the end for World of Warcraft, and then Pandaria was just that was it. Then people stopped taking it seriously as soon as Pandaria happened,
Yeah.
and Diablo 3 happened at the same time. Same thing with Bungie. Destiny
Admittedly,
1.
I will say that Pandaria was actually regarded as a very good expansion by a lot of people. A lot of people just didn't like the pandas. That was it. They just thought it was a bit of a joke.
That probably didn't help. To be fair,
Yeah.
it's just too kung fu pandery for certain.
Mm. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know where Bungie would go next if they were gonna follow along that momentum of where they usually would from each game.
Battle Royale,
So
probably.
Battle Royale. Maybe they just go full on MMO with the next game. Ooh, I'm down for another MMO. Feel free. We get like a massive space sci-fi MMO. Ooh.
That would be cool. That would be better than what Destiny is at the moment. Give it that.
Destiny is very similar to Warframe, games like that, but Warframe's free.
Yes, and way more fun. From what
I've not really.
Actually, I can't say that because I'm comparing late Warframe to early Destiny, and that isn't fair.
Yeah.
Especially since early Warframe was abysmal and was worse than early Destiny was. So
yeah, I've played a little bit of Warframe and a little bit of Destiny, and neither game really caught my attention completely. Although I wanted to get into Warframe, I don't know, there was something about it that I just couldn't get into.
It requires a lot of your attention when you first start at Warframe. There's a hell of a lot of systems, and it doesn't really explain any of them to you. So you do have to just sort of be like, you have to invest yourself into it. Definitely one of those games which is I feel like you've got to be in the mood for that. You've got to be in the mood to want to start a new game and throw yourself headfirst into it.
Yeah, I think I did it on stream. Maybe it might have been on stream that I got into Warframe and I tried to play it, and it wasn't clicking for me. I guess I wasn't investing myself into it too much.
It's not a game that's going to work if you're streaming your experience, because it's one of those games where you're going to want to stop and watch YouTube videos and check the wiki a lot when you're first starting, because it doesn't explain the systems to you at all. So I can't imagine you would have really gotten the right kind of experience if you were streaming it and just trying to figure it out as you went.
Well, I mean, you get chat occasionally telling you what to do.
Of course, actually, that's true.
Which, I mean, you don't know how reliable that is half the time, to be honest. But, you know.
God damn you, Twitch chat. Purple side bad.
Purple side bad. But yeah. So, I don't know. Hopefully Bungie does something really cool. Be really interesting to see where they go next with their endeavors. But, shall we talk about something that's even more fun? Should we talk about a game we all love? Should we talk about a little bit of FIFA? We all love FIFA here, right?
FIFA. Big FIFA fans here on whatever this podcast is called.
I'm hoping you do remember the name and that didn't just like go over your head there.
No, it's a joke about the fact that we don't actually have a name for it.
Well, technically, it's an alpha.
It's an alpha. Which is a change. So, what's going on with FIFA, my boy?
Well, someone who also a big fan of FIFA is that the football man, David Beckham, that guy.
David Beckham. If you're American, David Beckham.
Yes, that guy.
Yeah. So he's making a lot of money. There's there's been a lot. So the headline that we've got here is that Beckham's reportedly making £40 million from FIFA 21, while Abramovich, I'm going to say, is livid about being in it. It's kind
Yeah,
of
some of a football man.
yeah. I don't recognize his name. I think I've said it right, but I don't know. But yeah, there's actually been a lot of drama about FIFA, and it's this week, and it's been a lot of different situations. Actually, I wasn't aware of most of this. I did see the thing with Gareth Bale. He was mouthing off on Twitter
Yeah,
because he's noticed that he's featured in FIFA 21, and I think he's even in some of the box art. And he's not happy because apparently the way FIFA works is they buy the license for some sort of union of some kind within football that represents the majority of the players. It's some like organizational union or something like that. It's called FIF Pro.
mm,
And FIFA just buy the rights for that, so that they can then, so that then they have the rights to all the players and the clubs and whatever. Gareth Bale apparently isn't a part of FIF Pro, um, so they don't actually have the right to his likeness, but he's been featured quite heavily anyway, and he's been mouthing off on Twitter about that. I saw that part of it. The rest of this I haven't really seen. Uh,
yeah. I
but
just found it to be a very interesting story.
yeah, it's just classic EA, really,
Mm,
being scummy. Um, okay, yeah. So I'm gonna go with Abramovich. I don't know if that's right.
okay.
Um, but yeah, his tweet says, "Who gave FIFA EA Sport?" He's kind of combined the name of the game and the name of the publisher there. Who gave FIFA EA Sports permission to use my name and face? FIF Pro? I'm not aware to be a member of FIF Pro, and if I am, I was put there without any real knowledge through some weird maneuver. And for sure, I never allowed FIFA or FIF Pro to make money using me. His English isn't great. It's obviously not his first language, but you get the
Mm,
point.
yeah.
Um, yeah, he's also not happy. So this is funny. It's just implying that FIFA are using the likenesses of players without checking to make sure that they've got the rights to it. It's typical
Yeah.
EA arrogance. I think they probably just think that if anyone kicks off, they can pay them off anyway.
Well,
Which
EA have
obviously
actually
sounds true.
commented. They actually responded saying, "We've seen the reports on the terms of our deal to bring David Beckham back into our EA Sports FIFA game. We don't disclose specific details, but we can be definitive. Don't know what happened there. That the figures being reported are being completely sensationalized and are in no way accurate." Which to me just
Wow,
reads
that's
as
fight and talk. That sounds very.
well. You know what? It was like we gave them like 38 mil. They just rounded up, guys. It's okay. It's been sensationalized.
Yeah, that comes across as like really defensive, doesn't it? It doesn't
Mm.
really have a professional tone. It sounds like they're on the defensive, like they're ready for a fight. So odd choice of words for a PR statement. But
Yeah.
there you
So this
go.
was in response to a PC Gamer actually reaching out to them, and this is what they just said in response to it.
Mm.
So it's
So it's
interesting.
not a
Yeah.
great way to put it. Odd that Beckham's getting so much money when he's like he's not really relevant to football anymore and hasn't been for a long time. Like he's retired. And he's not even associated with football anymore. He's kind of more associated with all the kind of like deodorants and all that stuff that he does now with Victoria Beckham, surely. Um, if when he is seen as a football player, he's kind of regarded as a historical figure in football now. It's mad that they're
Yeah.
giving him so much money. Um, would he even be in the roster for FIFA? I don't know. Does FIFA have like classic
I
players in its
don't
roster?
know.
I don't think it does, but it's been a long time since I've played one, so I can't be certain of that. Unless you win him in a FIFA loot box, actually, I guess
Yeah, maybe get
I
him
bet you
in an
can.
ultimate team or whatever.
I bet you can. I bet you that's what it is.
Well, I mean, he's on the box art, which is like the big thing because
Mm,
I assume the person who's on the box art usually gets a nice little a nice healthy sum of money
oh,
lumped
I'm
towards
sure.
them. So
This is what I mean. Why put a retired player on the box art? It's a strange move, I think. Do
I
kids
don't know.
these days even know who Beckham is? He's not been relevant to football for about 10 years.
I know who he is, but I also don't know anything else about football.
Yeah, he was the biggest footballer in the world when we were about 5 years old, but he's well past his prime. He's also not on the cover for FIFA 21. I've just checked.
Is he not?
No,
Okay, well,
he is not.
he's been heavily featured in it because he's one of the icons. Is how they were reporting it. I don't understand why he's getting so much money for being an icon on there. It is a bit odd.
I don't understand why people would be a little bit annoyed. Maybe he's getting more than the person on the front. I don't know.
Who's a big football man icon guy nowadays?
I don't know, like maybe Mo Salah comes to mind just because he plays for our team. But I don't know who that is on the front. I don't know enough about football. We are not the people to be discussing this.
So yeah, just been informed, but so they have icons which allow footballers from the past to be in the game as players in Ultimate Team. So it is what we thought it would be. Yeah.
Yes. Classic EA.
So but yeah, it's so I still think he probably got pretty close to that sum. It does seem ridiculous for them to be throwing out like 40 million, but EA make a lot of money off FIFA, because EA Sports is big for them. That's Ultimate Team is where they make a lot of their money. It's a big cash cow, and I just found this to be a really interesting story, and it's just, I don't know. Yeah, well,
it's an excuse to shit on EA, which is all that
it is. Matters. You know, we need one of those. We don't have any other company to complain about this week, so we've got to complain about EA at least once. Okay, give us that. But
so what else have we got?
Well, we've actually got a company to praise because Square Enix are now allowing employees to permanently work from home. So that's really cool, and it's a big step for a lot of game developers because this is pretty unprecedented. So, you know, even when they're crunching now, they get to crunch and be with their family at the same time. They don't have to stay in the office for like 3 weeks. They can do it from home.
It is cool. It's kind of odd. It's odd that a Japanese company has done it for 2 reasons, I think. One is that Japan isn't in lockdown. Japan's handled the coronavirus very well, and I don't think has really gone into any serious form of lockdown at any point. So this is the country that perhaps needs this the least. But also, I'm not sure if Japanese workers would want to work from home because they're going
it'd feel very different to the culture. Like
not just that. Square is based in Shinjuku, so most of these people are going to be living in or near Tokyo. And they're not going to have big homes with lots of space.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to want to be cramped into tiny apartments in Tokyo to be doing their work. And yeah, it's not part of their culture, but it's not really part of anyone's working culture, to be fair.
Well, I think less so over in like the East. Like over here, like if someone was like, "Hey, you know what? You can work from home," we're all like, "Way!" And then over there, they're just like, "That seems very." Like I feel like they'd be a little more hesitant to the idea.
Definitely, I think this may be why they've done it there, because I feel like a lot of workers maybe won't actually take them up on the offer. So
I think being given the choice is good, though. It's a good step.
Great.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. But Square's a global company, and it's only the Japanese officers that are offering this, as far as we know so far. So it's an odd move.
Yeah, but again, it is a really good step, and like it'd be cool to see more companies go this way, especially this year. Like it's surprising they're only just sort of doing this now, and it is over in Japan of all places. So I don't know what the idea was behind it, but it's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing, and hopefully we'll see again this be, you know, spread across the industry a bit more, especially in an industry that's just plagued by crunch culture and stuff like this, because it's something that needs change in a way. You know, even if they're like, you know what, you crunch, but you can do it from home. You know, that's better.
I guess so. Um, might make people feel a bit more socially isolated. Well, I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue that it's not a step in the right direction. It definitely is. I just hope that we see it more in the West too, or just see more developers do it in general. Because I'm not
Mm.
convinced you really need to be in an office for most game development
No,
jobs.
I think there's an element of like communication and working with a team that it definitely helps being in an office to pass these ideas back and forth. But you can always do it over video chat. I feel a lot of people have become accustomed to that, especially over this year. So I think a lot of people have seen that you can operate in a different way if you try to, and I think crunch especially can still be changed if they change the way they manage their time and manage their actual developers, because again, crunch and issues like this they're all an issue with management at the end of the day, and publishers pushing releases.
100%. And the culture, because they've intentionally built a culture
Yeah.
to support it, which is particularly egregious in my head, honestly. That's especially the case for Japan as well, because Japan's got that problem across the board. It's not just in this industry. So
Mm. But yeah, it was a good thing to say, and you know what, Square Enix, keep it up. Proud of you. um,
yeah.
Other than that, last story. There's not really a lot of news this week, so last story is we got Phil Spencer talking about how much he dislikes the console wars, which I thought we'd just talk about because I thought it's an interesting one, because console wars have forever been a thing. I feel like I don't see it as much now because I'm not a child, and I don't hang around other children that complain that you don't have the right console.
Yeah, I mean, I do think it's less common in general anyway. Honestly, I
I don't know
think
if that's
even on
our
Playground,
perspective, maybe. I don't know. I think
I
we
don't know.
actually spoke about how this might be free to play games and stuff like Fortnite are out there. Maybe the kids are more interested in like playing the Fortnite.
Mm.
I feel like an old man being like, yeah, maybe the kids are more interested in playing the Fortnite and the
The thing
mobile games.
the thing is, all the big games the kids play have crossplay.
Yeah.
Minecraft and Fortnite and all the games like that, they have crossplay. It doesn't really matter too much anymore, and their consoles are way more similar now than they were when we were younger. Especially this generation. This generation is identical. This generation is pretty much identical. The only difference between the two, besides the live service stuff, which obviously Microsoft is handling well better, hardware-wise, the only difference is that um, I think the Xbox is ever so slightly more powerful in processor specs, but not enough for it to actually make a difference to the games. PlayStation has like a hardwired SSD, which is tiny bit faster, but not enough to make a big difference. And
Mm.
it's got a dedicated ray tracing chip, which the Xbox doesn't have. And I'd say that is the only thing which so far we've actually seen a difference graphically, and ray tracing is going to drop off soon anyway. I think it takes up too much computing power, and developers are going to want that for other stuff. So I think ray
Yeah.
tracing gimmick that will die soon
I
anyway,
think
and come back in the next generation. So
I think you might be overestimating what the kids are actually interested in. I don't think they care what the console runs or how well it runs. I think they're just
no,
like,
but this
my one doesn't look like a router.
no,
Mine's so much better. And then the other one's like, well, yours is a box. I don't
my
have the
point was
box.
my point. I know I kind of went off on a slightly
Yeah.
nerdy rant, but that's not true. It's not. That is not ever what console wars was about. I think you're
Was it not?
misrepresenting that there. That so
I feel like kids are just
it was
they just
always
find a
well
way.
my it was always like my console looks nicer than your one. Mine has better graphics. Back when that mattered, and it really doesn't now. But I think it did. Like um the SNES had like slightly better graphics than the Mega Drive, so that was a big deal then. Uh, the um, the very few kids who were sad enough to end up with an original Xbox would be like, "Well, my console's better because it's got better graphics than yours," and all the kids with a PS2 would be like, "Yeah, but I've got games." um, and I think exclusives and graphics were the big things, and they're both kind of moot points now. Exclusives are different now, to say the least, especially with Xbox. They only really exist on the PlayStation now, and obviously Nintendo, but Nintendo aren't really competing anymore, and they're not really in the same market. So I don't know. I don't
Hmm.
think it's the same deal. That said, um, I don't know if you've seen what's been going on with John Linneman from Digital Foundry this week. It is mentioned
Oh no.
in the article that you linked, actually. But I've watched this unfold live on Twitter because I do follow John Linneman. And he's in Digital Foundry, so they do technical breakdowns of games.
Hmm.
And he's been comparing, he's been comparing a lot of games between the new Xbox and the new PlayStation, naturally.
Yeah.
And just trying to understand what the differences actually are between the two consoles. And honestly, I've watched all of these videos, and he has pretty much said, yeah, they're more or less exactly the same. Differences are minor, but for some reason, uh, the, there's been this bizarre, toxic narrative built that he's anti-Xbox, to the point where people have been making very, very blatantly fake tweets where he's
Oh,
been claiming that the PlayStation's better than the Xbox, and he actually reposted one earlier today, which it did make me laugh, honestly, because it
I've
was
not
the
seen the
worst.
follow up to this.
I'll have to find a tweet, and I'll send it to you after the show. But
Okay.
it's great. It honestly, someone made a fake tweet, and the text was in the wrong font, and it was squished, so it was too narrow, and it just clearly wasn't a real tweet at all. It's a pathetic attempt. I have never seen anything like it. The toxicity, and it's just not true either. Like, he's been so
Hmm.
unbiased all the way through. Um,
I
People are
think
accusing him.
Twitter. I think Twitter's
Yeah,
a whole nother
maybe.
reality. Honestly,
I really don't understand what happens on Twitter half the time. People can be really strange on that
like I like
platform.
Twitter,
It's
but
bizarre.
yeah, it's not real life. It's not what
No, it's not. It's not.
like it's
John
some
Lennon
different
does
reality
not.
people living in. Sorry, I'm talking over you. Go on.
He does not care about which console's better. At the end of the day, he plays
Hmm.
games on PC anyway. He's just doing it because he likes seeing the new tech and seeing how the developers are taking advantage of it. To him, that's cool, and he looks into it from that angle. But ultimately, the thought that people are accusing him of preferring one console over the other when he's far too much of a nerd to to actually pick a console over the other anyway, because he's going to be playing most of his games on PC.
Yeah,
He's not going to be playing them on the consoles anyway most of the time. It's just it's insane, and I've not seen anything like that in a long time. I did really think that console wars had more or less died until I saw this toxicity, and that has made me rethink it over the last couple of days. I've it's honestly ridiculous, and he's unfortunately, John Lennoman's one of those people who gets too wound up, and gets too caught up in replying to people when they send them negative things on social media.
which
So I
encourages
think
it.
yeah,
Yeah,
he's fed the trolls here, and I think he's unwittingly made the situation worse for himself, unfortunately. And today he's finally turned off his replies, which I think was a good move. But he's still obviously you can tell. He still hasn't turned off notifications for when people at him, because he's still responding to when people at him, and I
oh,
have a suspicion they've gotten into his head, and I have a suspicion he might be searching his own name to see what comes up, because he is still retweeting and responding to these fake tweets that have been put up, and it's funny to me, but I can tell it's really getting to him, and it's just don't do it, guys. Don't troll someone on Twitter. It's pathetic and stupid, and it's just blatantly not true. Don't make fake tweets. Like,
I
get a
feel like
life, get a hobby.
I don't get the whole console wars thing. I've never really gotten it completely. It was just
No, I
if
haven't really.
it does feel like I feel like this has got to still be. I still think it's kids just in school that are just like mine's better than yours because I own it and you don't. And it'll be one group. This is the cool group who has the cool console, and you don't have it. And you're excluded from our cool group. And I think Twitter is a different reality where people are like, I can do whatever I want on here, and I'm just gonna troll this guy because he is falling for it, and we could just keep on going, and this is fun for me for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's just pathetic. But yeah, there you go. Don't feed the trolls is an important lesson to take
That is
from
an
this as
important
well, because
lesson.
he hasn't helped himself sadly. He gets people. I've seen so many reply to him saying, please don't respond to these people. That's what they want you to do, and he can't help himself. I'm glad
I mean,
he's finally looked at it.
it's a hard position to be in for some people, because some people feel
Absolutely.
it feels like you need to defend yourself. But
Yeah, it's not nice when people come at you on social media. It's really not.
mm,
God, I had curry stands. From when
you
Curry's messed
did.
up my PlayStation order, people coming to defend them for some reason, and all of them had FIFA or football profile pictures. So take from that what you will. Clearly, corporate shells who just put too much money into FIFA Ultimate Team.
I just found it. I saw those tweets and I just found it. I was like, why are they all defending curries of all places? But I think it was because
had their orders cancelled too.
I think it was because they really like the PlayStation, and then they're like, yes, I am part of the PlayStation, and Curry's delivers my PlayStation, so I will stand for Curry's.
People are strange.
It's a strange world, but yeah, I think that's all the news we've really got for this week. It was kind of a slow news week, so there wasn't a ton to talk about. We did fill the hour though, somehow. But
Yeah, we did actually. We did well.
But yeah, so Tef, tell the people where they can find you on the interwebs.
Well, ironically, after I've just blasted the only place you can really find me is Twitter. I'm Teffers on Twitter. I've not been posting on there really at the minute. I've taken like a little bit of a hiatus from posting. I also do write Medium articles, but again, on a slight hiatus from that. I'm just taking a little break. It's the end of the year. I'm stressed out with Christmas, just chilling. But when I do post on Medium, I always pin my latest article to my Twitter profile, so you can find it there. I just do more stuff like this. I just kind of write down my thoughts about games I'm playing. Do kind of analysis and things like that. If you're into that sort of thing, take a look. Besides that, the only other place you can really find me is here. I'm here on Mondays and I'm here on Thursdays for
Yeah.
Story Game Night with your boy Zan. We're currently playing MGS. Come along. Try to stop us from staying up too late next
Yes,
time. I
please.
think we needed a chat to controllers, but unfortunately everyone had gone to bed, so we just kind of went insane. But yeah,
We got a little loopy, but yeah. So feel free to go on over, check out Tef over on Medium. Again, he is a writer for the award-winning Super Jump.
Oh boy.
Writer for the award-winning. Listen, okay, I'm throwing that out there for you. And of course, for myself, you guys probably already know me if you're here, but I'm Zanrise on Twitch, Zanrise on YouTube if you want to go find all that arcade content. Doing a lot of arcade over there. Got a race video coming up, an arcade Arch Pass video that I'm doing. I want to do some indie game videos over there as well. I'm still like debating that. I'm still going back and forth on that, but we might have something over there. And of course, on Twitter, if you want to find me, I'm Zan Games and the real Zanrise on Instagram. I really wish I could get Zanrise on both of those platforms. It upsets me. I'm not gonna lie. It's very sad. But yeah, that is it for the 27th podcast. This 27th episode of the podcast, Tef. That's how many we've done.
That's ridiculous, man. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a lot.
We're over halfway through a whole year of the podcast.
Yeah, we actually are. We've done a lot, which is crazy.
Have we been doing this for 6 months?
Apparently. But yeah. If you actually want to watch the VODs for this podcast, I have a YouTube channel for that as well. If you look, this podcast is in alpha up on YouTube. You should be able to find it, and all of the past VODs are over there if you want to catch up. You can also find us on Spotify and iTunes. I do need to update those as well. They're on the way. I've been rendering audio versions of those out for a little while. I've just not found the time to throw them all up. But yeah, that is it. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thanks for discussing along with us, and we'll be back next week talking about all the other fun news that hopefully there'll be. So
very slow news week this week.
Yeah. So thank you for watching, everyone, and we'll see you all next week. Bonsoir.
Bonsoir.